All right, mate. Well, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. If you want to just kick us off, mate, just by giving us a bit of information about your background, really, mate. Just walk us through your journey up until this point, and yeah, we'll go from there.
So, when I tell you my journey, understand that I've got ADHD, and
Okay.
that's the reason why I've had more transformations in my career than Madonna has had transformations in her face and style. It's the easiest way to put it. So my journey started, and I won't go too deep into this, but so I grew up on like the largest council estate in Manchester, Wythenshawe, single mum, domestic violence background, growing up and everything, which obviously has an impact. I was always really, really clever at school. At 9 years old, I did a Mensa. I joined Mensa.
Wow.
Yeah, I had an IQ of 131. I'm not sure it's that anymore. I've not had an IQ test recently, but yeah, obviously a lot of wear and tear, I'd say, since then. Expelled from school at 15 years old. Got my first sales job at 15 for this company in Wythenshawe called Telecom. I think it was Telecom Direct. This really
Do you mind
slick
me
guy
asking why you got expelled?
threw acid at a teacher.
Right. Okay.
Problem child, as you probably gathered. I mean, like I said, I had ADHD, so nobody really knew what ADHD was or talked about it back then. So I was just a problem child.
Yeah.
Obviously, my childhood probably had an impact on that, I think. So yeah, got expelled, got into my first sales job at 15. Was on the verge of getting sacked pretty much every week for about 6 months. Um, yeah, but I always just held on by the skin of my teeth and managed to pull something out last minute, and then I ended up getting into it after about 6 months. Um, yeah, and that was the first of many sales jobs. I ended up being a manager there at 16, which was ridiculous. I
That's
had a
crazy.
44-year-old team, and it was just mental. But yeah, loads of sales jobs. But obviously, as I started getting older, you know, I think, I don't know whether this is common for a lot of people, but because of the childhood I had and this feeling of not being as good as everybody else, because I always felt I was a bit different because of my ADHD, which obviously I didn't realize at the time, but I do now.
Mm.
Um, I wanted to feel like I belonged. I was more interested in being popular. So obviously with that comes going out and partying, everything that goes along with that. Then my next career, I ended up going to prison for a little while. At 23, I think I was. Did 6 months there. And I think, when you have certain moments in your life, that kind of crossroad moments, I call them. I think that was it. That was a crossroads moment because I remember, like, during the second half of this sentence, I was in this place called Kirkham near Preston. It's like an open prison, and sun was shining. It was a beautiful day. I was outside, just sat against the wall. I was looking, like, imagining what all my mates were doing and everything. And yeah, it was that moment where I was like, I can't, like, I could go down this route or I cannot. So I decided not to, obviously. Got out of prison, and then started setting up like club nights in Manchester. And I ended up having like this club night called Digital Orgy, which was like one of the most popular nights in Manchester. 500 capacity club, packed out every month when I did my night.
Mm.
Obviously, I think part of that though was me kind of again wanting to be popular. Who's more popular at a nightclub than the guy who puts on the night? pretty much. So that was
Yeah,
my
true.
rationale at the time. Although I didn't realise it, I didn't think I was doing it for that reason. But when I look back, it's like it's obvious to me now. Everyone used to come back to mine afterwards. We'd party into the weekend pretty much. It was crazy times really. And then I kind of felt that I'd run its course. And then I was a good singer when I was a kid. I used to do karaoke and win competitions and all that sort of stuff. So then I joined a band. Started writing songs with this band, but it wasn't my band, it was someone else's, and they wrote the songs mostly, and I just did a little bit. So then I wanted to start my own band. It's kind of like my recruitment career, really. Worked for somebody else, then started my own recruitment company because I
Yeah.
felt I could do better. So yeah, did this band called Puppet Rebellion, started my own band, uh, was doing gigs across the UK, Manchester a lot, but obviously across the UK as well, um, supporting bigger bands like Feeder, Catfish and the Bottlemen, The
Really?
Twang, Rifles, and we even headlined Club Enemy one night in Camden at Coco, which was amazing. Um, so yeah, that was that, and then when that was starting to come to an end, I joined
Well,
Manchester
hang on
School
a
of
minute. Hang on a
Acting.
minute. I want to talk
Yeah,
about this because, yeah, I can't
certainly.
just let you glaze over the fact you're in a band. But so for you to be like, because a couple bands you mentioned there, like Catfish, but also Feeder, one of my favorite bands. Um,
Right.
how did you? Because you must have got to a good level to get because Feeder. What time scale is this? What when you're in this band? What year is it?
I think it was at the Lead Mill in Sheffield. We played with them. We were their main support. Um, and that was when I was in the first band, Daystar, they were called. Um,
But what time period?
and
What like mid 2000s or?
it was probably, wait, so that's 2008. It was probably around 2010, maybe, something like
Okay.
that, I think. I mean, it's online. I'm sure it's online somewhere. There'll be some reviews slating us because we're totally different to Feeder because we were like a proper Manchester style band, and
Right.
and Feeder were obviously Feeder. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be a review or two slating us for being like not a Feeder band. We were okay though. I think we did well considering it was like 2000. I think it was 2000. I can't remember. Does it hold 1,000 or 2,000 lead mill? Can't remember anyway. But it was packed. It was so good. And we were on TV as well. Actually, yeah, we were on TV. We were on ESPN. There was a football show called Talk of the Terrace, and we were on there, I think, two or three times. He kept bringing us back, the guy who was the presenter, because he really liked us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it
great.
was
So you
fun
yeah,
times.
you reached a good level then. Like how was that? Like because how long were you? So just so I can understand, like how long you were in this band and your
I think I was
ascent.
in Daystar for about maybe 2 years, but that was somebody else's band. How it was, these two songwriters, right? And one of which his brother was Bonehead out of Oasis, and they
What?
obviously wanted to still be in a band, but they were getting too old and they didn't want to do it. So all they wanted to do initially was record music. So so they advertised, or yeah, it was me who advertised because I wanted to do something with singing because I knew that the club night thing was coming to an end and I needed something besides just this constant stream of sales jobs to get my teeth into. So I basically put an advert out, a little bit cocky. I'm a really good singer, like, get in touch, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember what the words were, but it attracted them. And then they were like, just come down to the home studio we've got. So I went down somewhere in Stockport and I ended up being friends with them at the time. And we just started recording songs and we ended up making an album. And I was like, they didn't have any apart from writing songs, it felt like they didn't really have much of an ambition for it. And the
Mm.
songs were a bit Manchester, a bit like soft Oasis, and I could understand that because I was a bit like that as a singer, and they obviously had the influence of Oasis on them all their life because his brother was in Oasis. So I could understand it being like that, but they didn't really have any ambition for it, and obviously they didn't want to go out and perform. And I was like, God, I want to go out and do gigs. So I put together the band around me. None of us wrote the songs apart from the odd line here and there. And then they started like getting a guy to put some money in, and then we got this PR guy and singing lessons and all this sort of stuff. And then yeah, we started doing gigs, and he started getting us gigs on TV and all that sort of stuff. All of us, like, none of us wrote the songs. It was weird as fuck,
Did
to
you
be honest.
did you ever meet any of the Oasis
Like,
guys?
we were just performing monkeys. What? Go on.
No, I said, did you ever meet any of the Oasis guys?
No, no. I did play in his Pretty Green stores though. I did a gig in Manchester Pretty Green, and then one in London. I can't remember where it was in London, but one of the London ones. That's about as close as I got to
That's mad though that you were
to his.
like working with Boneheads. I mean, I'm an Oasis, massive Oasis fan. I'm not
No,
sure if you
I
are. I
was.
would assume you are, but
I was. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I still listen to some Champagne Supernova, Supersonic, all that sort of stuff. But I don't. I mean, yeah, my taste has progressed quite a lot since. Um, But yeah, I loved Oasis, I did, and I probably got a lot of my style from it because Liam Gallagher was just his guy from a council estate like me, cocky, like chest puffed out, didn't give a fuck about anyone, and at the time that was my whole vibe as well, and I guess I kind of really identified with it. But again, it wasn't a conscious thing. I didn't think I'm going to go out and be like Liam Gallagher. I just naturally what I guess a lot of people from Manchester were a bit like that. I mean, you could probably go out to an indie night in Manchester now and see another 15 people who dress like Liam Gallagher, look like Liam Gallagher, act like him. So yeah, so obviously I was in that band, and we got a load of gigs and that, and it was really cool. And then, but sorry, I need to get some water. But I forgot. You can put it out, can't you? Can I? I'm just gonna get
mate,
some water.
mate. Honestly, yeah,
Quick.
whatever, it's fine.
Just one sec. Yeah. So where was I going to? So yeah. But I've always wrote like poems and songs like even before I was in a band when I was like 18 years old. This small band called U Turn, and we wrote some of the most cringy lyrics about girls from Salford and all sorts of stuff. And we ended up doing a gig in Scotland, which was on Millennium Eve, which was really weird. This guy blagged us to go up there, said he would pay us 2 grand, and he turned out to be a complete crook. And then, so obviously, this place where we were supposed to play, but he wasn't going to pay us, and he like disappeared on the night. I don't know why. So everyone in the place like put together this big whip round for us, and ended
Oh,
up we
really?
ended up earning about we ended up earning about 1.5 grand just from everyone putting the hand in the pocket for us. We were like 18-year-old kids who had written a few songs and did a lot of covers and that, and it was yeah, weird anyway. So that's how the band life started. And then I'd always wanted to write songs and stuff. And obviously I'd matured as a person a little bit and my view of the world. And I had a lot of things to say from childhood that I could put into music. So when I was in this Daystar band, they were such nice guys. And the guys that I was in the band with, I loved. We were cool. Everyone was cool. I thought, imagine if we just wrote our own songs. Like, I wonder if the guys who are funding it would allow us to put some of our songs in. So we started doing a few like live, and they were getting better reactions than the songs that these guys had written. So we were like, oh, maybe we're onto something here. But I basically wanted to set up my own band with the four guys that I was in the band with. But it meant starting from scratch with no money behind us, no PR behind us, no nothing. And I was like, yeah, but what's more important? Actually doing something that makes a difference, like something of your own that you can look back on and be proud of, or doing somebody else's music and and then just because there's a bit of money behind it. So I ended up leaving the band and making the big statement. I'm going to set up a band. I'm going to call it Puppet Rebellion because that's what it felt like. We were puppets and this was my rebellion. Not against them because they were nice guys, but they wouldn't let us write our own songs. And I think at the time I was like a bit annoyed about it. So I set up my band and I thought these four guys would just come with me because we were all great mates. We drank together, we watched football together, all sorts of stuff. And they all just stayed. And I was like, so you're all going to stay in this band just because there's money? I'm the front man. Like, this is stupid. Like, you're not going to get a front man as good as me. What are you doing, you idiots? So they ended up staying, realised that I was right. But by that time, there'd been a little bit of argy-bargy between me and them because I was really annoyed about it, thinking they were disloyal. So they ended up setting up this like weird psychedelic rock band, which they were all right actually. And I ended up setting up Puppet Rebellion. I basically found a guitarist who's one of my best mates now. He was best man at my wedding, and we set up Puppet Rebellion. I was in that band for like 3-4 years with him, and we did gigs all over the place with them as well. It was top. But I wrote all the lyrics, I wrote all the songs, he wrote the guitar parts, and it was like a proper band. Not like a glorified karaoke. So it's a shame though. I mean, it was a good time.
Mate, it sounds
Did you
mad. It
get
sounds
what
like
you
you had a
wanted?
mad uh 10 years.
Yeah, but then I joined acting at Manchester School of Acting because I thought, well, yeah, the band thing, I'm not sure whether I want to go down the music. It was the same time actually as being in Puppet Rebellion, but I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do music or acting. And my sister basically wanted to go to this open audition in Manchester for Manchester School of Acting. Like, and the guy who runs it was quite well known in like the soap world, like Hollyoaks and Coronation Street and all of that. So he was involved in stuff like that. So I went along with my sister just to like give moral support. And we just had to do this like I think it was I can't remember what it's called now. When you're just given an idea and you have to basically do it. There's a word
Oh,
for it. I can't
improv.
remember it. Yeah, improv. That's it. Yeah, I can't believe I lost that word. Yeah, so I did some improvisation with my sister. My sister didn't end up getting in, and I got in, and it was like I didn't even want to join. I was just like going to show moral support. Ended up getting in and was there for 18 months, and that was top as well. I think what I learned from it was, in acting, like you need to be emotionally available, and there was a lot of stuff that happened in my childhood that I'd never talked about before. And I think it taught me two things. It taught me so basically, one of the things is they teach you about your personality. Everyone's got like these archetypes, like personality traits, and they teach you all about that. And then all of you are in a circle, and you just have to you have to be as honest as you can about the worst shit that's ever happened to you.
Hmm.
And for me, having never done therapy, it was therapy. I spoke about the stuff that had happened with me when I was growing up, and everybody else spoke about stuff. I was hearing girls talking about how they were raped and all sorts of stuff. So I learned two things: how to be open, number one. I had a lot of stuff bottled up, and that released that. But also, no matter how bad you think your problems are, there's always somebody with worse problems than you, and
Hmm.
pretty much everybody's been through some shit. but everybody likes it. So I remember I went through my life kind of thinking, no one's got problems like me. I've had the hardest childhood. I've had the worst time, and I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about it, and I never spoke about it, and it was all bottled up. And then suddenly I'm like, yeah, fucking hell, everyone's got better, worse problems than me. Like, actually, my life's not that bad, really. In the grand scheme of things, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So yeah, and that was it. And then I got into recruitment about 9 years ago. Again, another Madonna sort of change. Got into recruitment after so many. I was in this sales company, an SEO company in Manchester for 7 years. It's the first job I've ever managed to stay in, despite having ADHD. I managed to stick it out for 7 years. Ended up being a manager there, being a team lead, for 5 of the 7 years. Broke all the company records. It was good. But I think I stayed there a bit too long. But again, everything happens for some reason, doesn't it? So I ended up, getting a job at Evolution in Warrington. And
So your sales job,
yeah,
what do you feel like? Why do you feel like you were so successful? You said you broke all the records, and like, do you think you're just naturally good at sales, or was that something that you had to, read
when I
about,
look
pick up,
back,
learn about?
when I look back, I don't think I was good at sales at all. I was good at persuading and talking, and I was very one-dimensional. I had a script. I'd follow the script. I'd say the right things in the right places. I'd have objection handling sheets, and it was like so basic when I look back, but it was replicable. And I had a team of 6 people who basically I didn't manage the way that people should be managed. I didn't give them freedom. I was like, this works. I've proven it works. Do this, and you'll make money. And they did. But I look back at it now and I think, wow, that was shit. I was proper shit. I mean, it got the results, but results aren't everything, are they? If you're not empowering people, if you're not giving people creativity, and every time they make a mistake, you're like, it's because you're not doing it like I've told you. It's
Mm.
yeah, it's weird. It's like paradoxical, isn't it? Like how I don't believe that is the right way to manage people, but it was the most successful team that they've ever had. Crazy.
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like, did you? Because this was like your first like sales manager role, right? So where did you learn what
Yeah,
you learned? Like, where did you learn how to sell? Where did you get these scripts from? Um, yeah,
every
like,
company I've worked. I mean, the thing is in Manchester, when I was doing sales, like from like 15 years old up till probably like 30, I think. Yeah, probably about 30. No, about 34, I think I was when I stopped. And there were so many dodgy sales companies in Manchester. The types of sales companies that you like selling advertising space in a crime prevention magazine that never goes to anybody but the people who bought the space. It was just like stuff like that, really. And these types of sales jobs were pretty much run by crooks, but you didn't realize it was just another sales job, like business rates and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I think you go in and then like this is the commission structure. You'll learn this for doing this. You'll learn that for doing that. So then you go in with that mindset, and then a month later, right, commission structure's changing. I'm doing this now, and I'm not one for people like moving the goalposts. Like I need structure in my life. I didn't realize how much at the time. So every time that had happened, I'd have an over emotional chimp saying, "Fuck this, sir. You don't need this. Walk out." So I would, and then I'd get another job. Yeah, so I learned how to really lie on my CV,
okay,
which helps me in recruitment and now being able to spot the bullshit.
So how do you spot like lies on CVs then?
It's just like asking questions, isn't it? Asking questions about why they left, and you, I don't know whether it's where I grew up, but maybe it's a gut feel. I don't believe in gut feelings, first of all. Like people say, "Oh, I just had a gut feeling." That's bollocks. It's 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 that gut feeling comes from all the years of experience that you've had. It comes from the lens that you view the world in, and
Yeah,
that gives you your gut feeling. And people say, "Oh, I had a gut feeling," but I had a gut feeling, is what I'm saying, based on my experience. Um, so whenever I'm talking to someone and I'm hearing the way that they're answering questions, I just have this feeling that that's bullshit. And it doesn't happen a lot nowadays, thankfully. But when it does, I even say to my clients, like, honestly, I don't trust this one. I know you like him and I know you want to interview them, but I've got there's something telling me that this guy's not right. And
yeah.
I've been proven right every single time.
That's really interesting that you're that based on things that you were doing, which you now obviously wouldn't like, but
Yeah.
you're able to now utilize that to become a better recruiter. And I think that's quite common actually, to be honest. Like a lot of recruiters, so some of the best recruiters I've met, they've got like a really good intuition.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. I've got that, I would say. 100%. So what do you want to know now?
Sorry, mate. Oh, also, by the way, I'll make a note to cut this out. Don't worry. But is there a slight little lag on your end?
Not really, no. I don't think so. Your
No.
picture's a little bit cloudy, but only a bit.
Yeah, that's all right. It sorts itself out because it, like I said, it sort of uploads.
Yeah, go.
Let me just if I just speak loudly, just checking the echo. There's no echo. Cool. So I'll just make a note. Cut out 27 minutes. Cool. Yeah. So yeah. So that brings us up to like you've been a sales manager and then you've moved into recruitment. So I suppose my first question would
So,
be why did you even get into recruitment in the first place? Like because most people sort of fall into it
um,
or
so imagine like I was getting to the point where I realised that the job that I was doing felt a bit one-dimensional, and I've been in sales for so many years, and I felt I don't know how many more jobs I can handle where you just sit, you've got a script, you follow the script. There's no thought, and I've got a brain. Um, so I think I just wanted something different. And then I went for an interview for some sales company in Old Trafford, and I walked in and it was just like every other job, but massive. And they really wanted to hire me and all that sort of stuff. And I just told them no. I said, I don't want to work in an environment like yours. I'm sorry, it's not your fault. Obviously, you're probably really successful, but I think I'm just done with these types of environments. And then I just saw this. I was looking for something different, and then I saw this advert for a guy called a guy called Tony Bolland. I spoke to, and the interview was like quite a long interview process. It was 3 stages, and it was stage two was like for me to do a presentation about like if I was to start a new market, what would I do? So straight away, although it was a long process, I was like, well, this is actually getting me thinking. This is what I need. Um, so then I did this presentation. I did some research online, found out what recruiters do and how it works and whatnot, and then used my common sense to come up with like, if it was me, this is what I would do, and then gave them the presentation, and they were like, "That's one of the best ones we've had." And I was like, "Right, okay, cool." So then, yeah, got the job. Guy called Gaz Morris, who's the MD, such an inspiring guy. I was there for 2.5 years. I didn't smash it. if I'm honest. I had, I think my first year was just like, it was like a half year. I think I did like 50, 60 grand. It wasn't great. My first full year, I did like 137 grand. But for them, the benchmark was 200 grand. Like, you do 200 grand, you're a good recruiter. And there was only a few people doing over 200. So it wasn't bad. I ended up
What was the
like
market?
getting on. It was, I started out doing engineering. So it was like C++,
Mm.
embedded electronics, all that sort of stuff. Started off doing that. So the fees weren't amazing, if I'm honest. I think my average fee might have been like 5 or 6 grand, nothing great.
Mm.
Um, and it was okay. I mean, I learned a bit about recruitment, but I also learned a lot about how not to recruit, mass mailing. There was a lot of things that they did that didn't sit right with me. And I think my moral compass was really coming together at that point. Um, like I think I'd started to realize like there was some things because I'd got away from that cold call sort of hard nosed sales environment. I guess it was then that I started to want to be better as a
Mm.
person. Um, but at the same time, I was still very, I hadn't been diagnosed with ADHD at the time. I was doing the acting classes. I was friends with a guy from there, and he said, "You've definitely got ADHD, Si. 100% you've got it." And I was like, I didn't even know what it was. But I didn't do anything about it. And then I remember at Evolution, like every time, what would happen is every time I'd hear somebody around me talk about something that I could have a conversation about, I would be on it. So someone would say Man United, I'd be like, what? Like a meerkat. My head would be up, what? Man United? And then my voice is pretty loud, so I'd be shouting across the office. And although I was a good biller and the MD thought I could do 200k, and he was like, "You're a really good recruiter. You just need to harness it." I was distracting everyone around me, and he had a word with me one day, proper sat me down, and he was like, "Look, you're really great recruiter. You've got so much potential, and I really like you, but you're costing the team with all the distracting and everything." And I really liked recruitment, and it was so much more than just a sales job. There were so many different facets to it that I'd not experienced. So I didn't want to lose my job. So I thought, right, this is ADHD. I know it is. And the MD said, no, it's not. It's not. You're just putting a label on it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm going to do something about it. So I went and got diagnosed, and then it just flipped for me. It was like that was like another crossroads moment where
Yeah.
ADHD, diagnosis, meds, suddenly, like, I could focus, I could listen to other people, which I could never do before. And I just felt like I still had the sort of excitability, I still had the passion. I didn't lose that, but it just rounded off the edges a little bit and made me into a more intelligent and focused person. So then, yeah, I was there for probably about 6 months to a year at Evolution on my meds. But I guess because I was a lot more focused, I was a lot more focused on what Evolution were doing wrong as well. And their approach was always about numbers, 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 and it works, doesn't it? For the bigger agency, it does work. KPI this, KPI that. You've not done enough sales calls. But I've got 15 jobs on. Why do I need another client?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got to hit that KPI, and it was just senseless. Mass mail everybody with the word .net on the CV. Well, no, because I get 1,000 responses from people wanting to be taken off the database, and I might make one placement from it, but is that one placement worth that bad reputation from those 1,000 people? So, but they just didn't. It was just the way it was, and they didn't understand. So I left there, joined this company called. We were a big oil and gas recruiter. Had all these ideas, was really focused, and then there was a woman there who'd been there like 15 years or something. She was a bully. She was a top biller for the company. She didn't like me coming in with all these newfangled ideas of recruitment, doing this tech stuff that she didn't understand because she was oil and gas. So she just bullied me. She constantly bullied me, picked on me all the time, and I honestly, like, I've never felt so upset because I was like, all I'm trying to do is good work, trying to build something special, like I've been brought in to do. And you're just picking at every single thing that I'm doing because I'm not you, and
What
you
do
were
you
the
mean by
top biller.
bullying?
And
Like, what actually happened?
every single call, I'd have a call with a candidate, right, and or a client, potential client, and everyone else around me were like, "Oh my God, what a great call that was!" And she would take me off into the office, and she'd be like, "You're doing this. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. Why did you say that? You've given off a bad impression. Um, that's not how it's done at NES. Blah blah blah." And it happened like nearly every other call, and she'd do it in front of everybody else as well, like really belittle me, and I couldn't handle it. Like, I spoke to my manager, and everybody was the same. Like, they were like, we know it's like that. We know that she's like that, but she's been here 15 years. She's the top biller, so we can't. What do you want us to do? I was like, well, she's bullying somebody. Like, regardless of whether I'm a guy, I can look after myself, you know. But I've got respect for women. I'm not gonna start shouting back at her. I'm not gonna speak to her like shit in front of everybody because I think that's disrespectful and it's not how I want to be. But something needs doing. You can't have this happening. And
Hmm.
yeah, they didn't do anything about it. Nothing. So I ended up leaving there after about 4 months. Was there for 6 months. I didn't like their way of working. Again, it was very much go out and meet lots of different hiring managers, and I was just like, this isn't efficient. Though I could probably on the phone speak to 15 hiring managers while you're meeting one or two, and I understand like once you, I understand like meeting someone face to face is more powerful than video. Meeting someone on video is more powerful than a phone call. Meeting someone on phone call is more powerful than an email. I understand that, and you get more out of it. But at the same time, like, wouldn't it be better for me to at least get some interest first and then go and know that they're someone I want to do business with and go work with them? So yeah, and the CRM was really crap as well. It was this old iTrist thing, and it was and no one really cared in the office apart from the guy who was running it. It was a small satellite office in Manchester, and there was like 5 people in the office, and 4 of them were just wanting to have a laugh all the time and weren't focused. And I guess it dragged me down a little bit. So then, yeah, so then I moved to Portsmouth where my best mate lived, and joined a company called who had about 6 people, small, run by 2 brothers, really nice guys. I told them that I'm a good recruiter. I know what needs to be done. I don't need managing. I just need supporting, and I need someone to bat ideas off. Someone who I can talk to about the way I want to recruit, and then you can go, "Oh, that makes sense," or "Have you thought about this?" And to be fair to them, they did that. They did that, and it led to me breaking all their company records. Um, yeah, building a really good market, building a bank of good clients. Yeah,
I think this is
obviously
a
that
really
that was
good, like a really important story, to be honest, with you, Simon, because your your story is. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening to this, especially like younger recruiters who haven't quite found their home, and I
yeah,
think it's really important because a lot of people, and it's one of my biggest issues with the industry, but a lot of people they come into recruitment, they'll go into like a bigger company, like a corporate company that has blanketed KPIs which don't make any sense, and they've just got targets for target's sake. Like you said, why am I meeting people face to face? Oh, because that's for whatever reason our data shows that we make more placements because you do that. And you're right, like it's so important that things make sense, but also that you're not stuck in your ways with how you do things just because you've been a top biller for 10, 15 years or whatever. Times change,
Yeah.
and cultures change, different generations come into the environment, and technology changes as well, and you don't need to you need to constantly review, I think, how you do things on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
Constantly. Yeah. Marginal gains. So it's how since Mexa, since joining Mexa late 2017, marginal gains has been the number one thing that I've always came back to. How can I be more efficient? How can I save time? How can I do this? How can I do that? Some marginal gains. Like a good example of it is I so let's say if I build 300k a year and I find a piece of technology that saves me 20 minutes a day. So 20 minutes a day, that's roughly 87 hours a year
Mm.
saved, which is based on the hours that I work right now, that's 3 extra weeks of your time, which based on the 300k, that's worth 19 grand. So marginal gains, like save 10 minutes, save 20 minutes, every 10 minutes, work out what saving 10 minutes will actually make you based on your averages, based on your figures, and do it.
Yeah. um it's I just think it's so important to for the industry to have this. I think this attitude really, and this approach. But what do you think? So, what's your opinion and view on like how we can fix that problem of juniors and trainees and grads coming into the industry, going into these types of companies, and well, just not liking recruitment from the off, really, because a lot of people get put off from it. So, I suppose what would be your advice to them?
Why
And
does it get put off? Like, what's
well,
the reason why most people get put off recruitment?
so I speak to a lot of like juniors and trainees who come in and then drop out after 6 months, and it's
Yeah.
usually the environment. So the environment's very KPI driven. Um, the training a lot of the time isn't very good, and people are just sort of they're chucked in at the deep end, not really understanding. Like even I suppose you're a bit different because you obviously had this really good sales background and experience. But what you've got to remember as well is like some people don't even know like have the like fundamental skills of like working in an office, like organization, productivity. Like forget about selling and recruiting, like just basic stuff like that. So
Mm,
the feedback I get when I speak to people is that they're not even getting like basic training, and it's there's a lot of companies. I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of companies, what they'll do is they'll hire like 15 people at a time. They'll expect like
mm.
8 to quit. They'll expect 3 to stick it out, and then they'll fire like 4 more. Um, and the problem is this creates like a really bad churn. So it massively affects the industry's reputation, right? And unfortunately, it means that
Yeah.
we lose out on like really good recruiters for the industry.
I th I think that first of all, recruitment owners, they've got the gold at the end of the rainbow on their mind. So they come into the business, they're like, one day we'll sell this recruitment company, we'll make a load of money and retire. It's a vessel for them to get where they want to get because they've got all this experience and they want to do something with it. And I think a lot of them grow far too quickly. They
Mm.
grow far too quickly before they've even realised, before I mean, so part of it's because they set up a business for the wrong reasons. And a lot of people set up businesses because they want to make money, and that's fine. But that's not the only reason to set up a business, is it? You set up a business so you've got financial freedom. Yeah, that's a given. Everyone wants that when they set a business up. But that can't be the only reason why you do what you do. So I think a lot of recruitment leaders, they've obviously been big billers. They come in and they just try to, like I did when I was a sales manager, this is what works. Keep doing this. But because they've kind of separated from the team a little bit because they've grown so quickly, they're not close to the market. They don't understand
Mm.
what's really going on for somebody at the coal face, So I think that they grow too quickly. They don't they don't really have. I mean, how many recruitment companies have values on the website that sound great, but then when you actually go into the environment, they ain't living those values. They just do. Like most recruitment companies I find online, you know what colour they use in the branding? Blue. Why do they use
Yeah.
blue? Because it's a marketing tactic to portray trust.
Is that true?
Look at us,
Do you know what? It's
yeah,
funny you say that. There are a lot of companies that use blue.
we're blue. Yeah, of course. Which is why I used yellow and black, the complete opposite, because that's what I wanted to be. But yeah, so they have all these values on, right? But they're mass mailing candidates left, right, and centre. They're using dodgy sales tactics. They're putting out fake CVs into the market to get leads. They're putting fake jobs into the market to get candidates. They're doing all of these different tactics, right? But then one of the values on the website is honesty.
Mm.
Fuck off. That's why people are leaving the industry. So what you're doing is the equivalent of what like big startups do when they've got a load of capital funding. They hire 100 people hoping it's all going to work out in the end. But these are not figures on a spreadsheet. These are real people with real
Yeah.
aspirations, real dreams, real hopes. And you could kill their career with that move. And these people are recruitment owners, by and large, big recruitment owners are irresponsible dickheads. They bring these people in like a conveyor belt. We'll bring in 15, five will work out. Recruitment's not for everybody, let's face it, right?
Mm.
I would only bring somebody into my business if I was 100% sure that they are the right type of person. They're the right type of person, they've got good values, they've got a good work ethic, not necessarily working hard either, but working efficiently. Yeah. And they have a bigger reason for why they want to do what they want to do than money. They want to do something significant in their life because we're all put on this earth. No one, no one, no one when they're at school, like when the teacher goes, "What do you want to be when you grow older?" I want to make lots of money. No one says that.
That's
I want
true.
to be an astronaut. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a whatever. Like, because they want to do something that means something that's significant. And you bring in all these people into your business. And if what you're saying, like 5 people might make it and 10 people won't, well, that's irresponsible. Don't hire the 10. Find ways of being better at interviewing. Find ways of understanding what matters and only look for that because you're just wasting people's time. And if you're not going to give them the support either,
Yeah,
like,
I think
like
that's the
no,
issue though, right? Like, if the training was better and there was better support and um, they were more careful with who they brought into the business, because I think a lot of companies, what they do is they just sort of, like you said, they'll just sort of hire people who, um, they just want to get into recruitment because they want to make a bit more money, and which is fine, but they're not really looking to get into recruitment necessarily, and the problem with that though is on the effect of the industry and the reputation of the industry, if you've got like 15 people joining, 5 people stay, and 10 leave and never go back into recruitment again, well, they tell all their mates, and then again, we're losing good people in
Yeah,
the industry. And
yeah,
I don't know if you've ever spoken to anyone, but where they've gone like, "Oh, you're a recruiter. Oh, sorry to hear that," sort of thing.
yeah. I've had that happen. I'm proud, so proud to be a recruiter. I'm not proud of the industry. I'm not proud of 90% of people out there who set up recruitment companies and either purposely aim to deceive and drag the industry down because they just want to make money quickly, or the ones that unwittingly do it but just haven't got the capability to run a business and they've done it before they're ready. You know, you hear about people coming into recruitment then for 4 years later setting up a business. Like
Yeah,
like people at 25, 30 years old, they've not even lived life properly yet. Like all the brain functions don't really set properly until somebody's 30 to 32 years old, I think it is.
yeah,
So you've got people at 25 years old whose brain hasn't even taken its finished form. You know, the functions aren't quite right, and you're setting up a business and bringing in 15 people because you've seen
yeah. I
Wolf of
mean,
Wall Street. That's how it works.
yeah. I mean, I suppose if say someone started in recruitment at like 18, absolutely smashed it, and then had the money to set up their own business at 24. I suppose the counter argument would be like, well, what? So should they just like stay employed just to get more
No,
experience, or
no. But should somebody set up a business who hasn't done the necessary work on themselves to learn how to run a business, to learn how to employ people, to learn how to interview? Now, somebody can do recruitment at 18 for 6 years, and if they've got the money and they're ready, great. But why not wait an extra year, go and do a management training course? Hopefully, you'll learn how to interview, maybe get a promotion where you are, learn how to interview there. Actually, think about why you want to set a business up and what type of a business you want it to be, and then do it properly. Whether you do it at 26 or 27, it doesn't really matter. But as soon as you set up a business, you've got a responsibility to your clients, to your candidates, who are all looking to you to be the one who knows the right way. Yeah. When you're hiring people, you've got a responsibility. No, every single person you're hiring has got family. Yeah. Some might be supporting the mum who's ill. Some might be supporting children who've had children. You know, like there's a big responsibility to get it right. Don't hire unless you're sure.
yeah,
What's the problem with what's the problem with only growing in the first year by 5? What's the problem with that? If those 5 are all really good people and you've created an environment for them to thrive, but instead
yeah,
you hire 15, you're chasing your tail, constantly chasing your tail, trying to different. Like people have not got the time to really. Like I'm 3 years into Odd Shoes now, and I'm only just understanding what it's like to really run a business. I
on that
couldn't have
then.
hired someone a year ago, or like now I'm in a position where I feel like I'm starting to get to the point where I might be ready to hire someone.
Yeah, well,
You
on
know,
that then, because we've yeah, obviously we've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but it's uh it's interesting to see, or interesting to know, like at what moment then did you realize that you wanted to go self-employed, and I suppose like why did you pull the trigger? Because that's quite a big leap, isn't it? Like setting up your own business.
yeah. So basically, like I'd build like I think it was like 265 or 270 in my last year, and they'd asked me to be a manager at the beginning of that year. I started it, didn't like it. The guy that I was managing was kind of, I don't. I'm not a great leader. That's the fact. I didn't feel like I was a great leader, and what he was doing was getting in the way of managing him was getting in the way of me billing, and I realised as soon as I started managing him that actually I'm not really enjoying this. So I asked to move sideways to like principal recruiter and just be a biller. So anyway, so at the end of that year, uh, build what I build, like broke their records, all that sort of stuff. The two guys that run the business, they're really nice guys, but no disrespect, but I'm a better recruiter than them. So I had no one to learn from, is number one. I was
Mm.
billing more than them. They were running a business, of course, but you can still bill and run a business. That's what I'm doing now. So I don't use that as an excuse anymore. Um, so they were kind of really nice guys. I liked them. I've got nothing against them, but I didn't identify myself with the brand as much. I felt I could do recruitment better on my own. I also realised out of that 270 grand after tax and everything, I probably only earned about 70, 75. So I looked at that and thought, well, my first thought was money. I realised that like it was money and freedom because I'd ask them to buy a piece of technology, let's say Sourcebreaker, right? 290 quid a month, I think it was. And for 6 months, I was trying to persuade them to get that piece of software because it saved me 30 minutes every day. I knew it would. Like, they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They ummed and ahed. 6 months later, they went, right, we'll do it now. They got it. Everyone was saving loads of time going to individual job boards every day. I saved loads of time. And it was frustrating for me because they did it, but I was like, why didn't you just do it sooner? 6 months of time there that I've lost the. So going back to what we said, like if it's 87 hours, so I've lost 40 odd hours that I could have had. I could have got me an extra 10 grand of billings if
Yeah.
you would have pulled the trigger sooner. And obviously they'll have reasons, business reasons why they didn't want to pull the trigger, and I'm not privy to that. It's not my business. But because of that, I was kind of like, well, I could do it on my own. Then I don't have to ask anybody permission for anything. I don't have to manage people. I can just be the best possible recruiter I can be and really, really try and offer the best service possible to my clients. Take what I've already done and do it miles better. So that's why I did it. And then it was only when I started doing some training with this guy called Dave Lewis. I don't know if you know him. He's a really good guy. And he was the first person that sat me down and like, figure out your values, figure out why you do this. And at that point, it was just freedom and extra money. But I realised that that was just a side. The freedom wasn't, but the money was just a side benefit to doing a good job. And I wasn't really focused on the money. Like if I'm good, I'll earn money anyway. So I'm not focused on that. I was more focused on I've got an opportunity here to change recruitment. Like, and I know that's a grand thing to say for someone with 1 year, like just setting up his own business, and I'm a one-person business. But my view was, well, lead by example, change recruitment in whatever way you can, offer the best possible client and candidate experience in any way that you can, come up with different ways to do that that no one else is doing, and you will change recruitment. The more people that find out about the way that you work, the more people that might want to set up their own business and do that because they're sick of being on the hamster wheel of somebody else's, business and not having control.
I'll tell
So
you one
that
one
was my
one way
that was my
you
way.
obviously have. Sorry, I think there's a little bit of a delay, but one way I would say that you definitely like how have helped the industry already, which is how I think I came across you actually is your job ads on LinkedIn that you write.
Yeah. Well, I can't
And
take much credit for it.
In what way?
Well, I mean, it was Mitch Sullivan's course that was the catalyst. I could always write, as in writing songs and stuff. I was always quite creative, but I didn't have the tools to write adverts properly until I did that course. And then I did the course, and it unleashed this creativity that I didn't realize quite the extent that I had. And then as soon as I did that, then I was like, well, this doesn't just count this ADA approach and the way to write adverts in a way that attracts the one person you're trying to attract. That's like that's something that can be transferred to all forms of communication. That can be transferred to every post that I write. That can be transferred to every article. That can be transferred to the way that I approach my business development. There's so many ways that can make a difference. So when I did that course, it kind of opened this Pandora's box for me. And one of the most biggest frustrations I've got. I mean, I had a guy on LinkedIn we were talking to the other day, and he seems a nice guy, and I've spoken to him a few times, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him. But I feel that there's a real arrogance about job boards that recruiters have. It's almost like a badge of honor. Oh, I don't touch job boards. I only look for high net worth individuals who wouldn't be on job boards, right? So I had a £150,000 salary offer for a candidate 2-3 weeks ago, right? How did I find him?
Job board.
Job board. Wrote an advert. He wasn't looking actively, but he was browsing, just browsing to see what else was out there. Something had happened in his day, and he was pissed off, and he thought, I'll just have a browse. Like you do, emotional people do. So you have a browse, you see an advert that catches your eye, and he applied.
But I think that speaks for the power of your job ads as well, right? Because I know you're saying that you learned about it through Mitch Sullivan's course, and Mitch is very well known, but
yeah,
you've still got to go do it, and you still got to take that knowledge and execute it. But what's your creative process behind creating a good advert for a job then?
I mean, it's simple, isn't it? Like, headline, grab attention. Once you've grabbed their attention, make sure the next paragraph is exciting enough to grab more attention. And I don't talk about the company. I don't talk about the company and what they're all about. I don't say, oh, my client is this, the biggest this, or they've won this award, or they've got the best workplace award. None of that sort of stuff is important. What's important is you've got John, who's a software developer at his company, right? And his problem is that his company isn't listening to his ideas about moving to a different technology that will help them become more efficient, right? Similar to how I was at Mexa. So he's sat there and he's looking at job boards and he's frustrated. My advert speaks to his problem. My advert will say something along the lines of, you are the type of person who never wants to stand still. You want to learn every technology that you possibly can because as a developer, your development is never done. I'm making this up, but that's the type of thing, right? He then reads that and he goes, he's talking to me alone. That's me. But then the next line will be about something else, about learning and maybe about work-life balance. And there'll be a person sat there who's like, my company's asked me to go back into the office 3 days a week. I don't want to do that. Oh, this advert's come across and the work-life balance. Oh my God, that sounds like he's talking to me. So what I do is I do my headline, and then I've got 3 or 4 hooks that are going to hook the main reasons why people want to leave their job. And I can only do that if my client gives me that information and if I qualify them well and I drag that out of them, that they can actually have that. So the hooks aren't always going to be the same. I won't put anything in my adverts that's not true. So sometimes it won't appeal to everybody, and that's fine. But I've always got 3 or 4 hooks that are going to grab attention for what most software developers want, and
Hmm.
and then the rest of it's just like, yeah, you know, how do I apply, and that's it. Now, I'm not saying I understand with job boards. So adverts, in a nutshell, right? It's You can't write a good advert if you've not got the content. The only way you're going to get the content is having a good enough relationship with the client that you've got and asking very good questions that are designed to bring out the stuff that software developers really want. So understand your market, ask good questions, speak to your client, have a relationship with them where they'll give you whatever you need to go out to the market. Once you've got that, write your hook, write your headline, write your hook, you 3 or 4 hooks, a little bit of blurb about the company, and the also what I do is I don't put more than 3 or 4 things that are required skills. I don't even put desirables in there because I think it's just a big shopping list. Developers by nature, I'm generalizing, but I'm sure most would agree, tend to have some form of neurodiversity a lot, like me. They tend to be anxious people by nature, a lot of the time. And when you may be so used to being so engrossed in the code and maybe not quite as much on the social side, maybe you lack a little bit of confidence sometimes. And I've seen it over the years. And again, I'm generalizing, and there's a lot not like this, but I come across a lot that are. So you imagine you've got 10 different things on a list of what you need, especially female developers. Honestly, like I've had female developers tell me this, right? But you've got 10 things on a list and you've got 8 of them. Oh, I'm not applying. I've not got the 2. I've not got that and that, so it'll be a no. Because it's binary, isn't it? Have you got it? Is it yes or is it no? Is it 0 or is it 1? It's
Yeah,
so I only put 3 or 4 things on there, right? And I always use natural language, like just like you were talking to your mate. I try to imagine the person that I'm talking to and try to just talk to them. Who is my
yeah,
target? What will they be doing right now? What are their feelings? Why are they unhappy? How can I speak to them as a person in written word? And that's it. It's not that difficult.
how long do the ads take you to make typically?
If I'm doing one with a brand new client I've never worked with, I can spend 2.5 hours because I want to get it
Wow.
right. But then once I've got a client that I'm working with regularly and I know them, the adverts tend to be the same with differences depending on the role. The hooks are always the same. Well, not all of them, but some of them are the same. Headlines, I always do different variations of them to keep them slightly fresh, but you can't completely reinvent the wheel every time you work on a role for a client. So those ones might take 30 to 45 minutes. Now,
That's interesting. Have you so before you started doing this, then when
yeah.
you really like, what were you doing before? Like, were you just doing what every other recruiter does? It's like,
No, I mean, I always tried to do better than that. I didn't write everything from scratch because I didn't know how to, but I would take what the information that I had and try to put it in a better way. But there were lots of mistakes I was making. So, like, I was making the similar mistakes as everybody else. Our client is the market leading, blah, all these weasel words that we don't want. So, like when I had the Mitch Sullivan course, it was like everything that I felt should be the right. Like you have this feeling like this doesn't feel like the right way to write adverts.
mm,
Gut feeling, perspective, whatever it is, right? It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel attractive enough. And what Mitch Sullivan's course taught me was a structure And people with ADHD love structure. It's how I live my life now. Everything's structured. I've got lists and plans for everything. I've even got a structure for this podcast. That's how I live my life. It's how I function. So as soon as I had that workable structure to work to, it was like, right. So it's like, it's almost like when your missus says to you, "Oh, I want you to be more spontaneous." I have to plan to be spontaneous. She never knows that. She just sees me being spontaneous, but in my head, I plan that. And yeah, adverts, it's just planned. Once you
What
get a
happens
plan,
if you don't have structure then? Like, how does that affect your
sends me
day?
all over the place, if I'm honest. So like, I try to control my day, and occasionally it does. But like an example, I've got a dentist appointment or an orthodontist appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning. I get to the office at 11. It's very, very hard for me to stick to a day plan on that day because I've already lost 3 hours. So my head goes a little bit, and it's probably the type of day where I'm more likely to finish a bit earlier and lose motivation because I know that I've not stuck to my plan. And it's something I'm working through. I'm trying to get past. I'm speaking to a performance coach at the minute called Christian Hoyle. I don't know if you've heard of him. And I've had 2 sessions with him, and I've already improved massively on areas. But yeah, so that's kind of how it affects me. Even with medication, it's difficult, but
Mm.
I'm a lot better than I was. And
Setting up
I
your own
still,
business then, like moving, yeah, like moving into sort of managing yourself, obviously from being employed and obviously having ADHD as well. How have you found that transition, like in terms of productivity, in terms of discipline, in terms of motivation?
yeah, I mean, there's been some challenges. ADHD has cost me probably about 100 grand just while setting up odd shoes, and I'll explain why. So, when I've got an idea in my head, like setting up a business, I just want to do it immediately, like impulse. My emotional brain is talking. There's no thinking things through. Once I've made that decision in my head, I've got to do it. I've got to do it then. Because it's only affecting me, so I can take that risk. Obviously, I'd be a bit more reserved if I was hiring people, which I'm not. But so, so basically, I took the decision to start the business. So they're a company, and basically they invest in recruitment businesses. They've got two
Okay.
models. They can take a portion of your business and invest money in it up front, but they own a piece of your business, or they can take a piece of your billings, a percentage of your billings, and they provide all of the tech that you need to set up. So when I started, I set up with them because I only had about 12 grand. Obviously, that's not enough for everything that you need.
Mm.
Now, if I didn't have ADHD, I would have probably got some more money behind me, worked on it a bit more, or found another way, or got a loan, or whatever I have to do, and I would have thought it through. But I didn't. So I didn't let them have a piece of my business because I had the 12 grand. I didn't feel like I needed it, which I'm so happy I did. But I did agree to a 4-year contract with them where they take a percentage of my billings and they provide all of the website and the CRM system and Sourcebreaker and all the stuff that I asked for, basically LinkedIn Recruiter and stuff. But I ended up like in year one, I think I paid them like 15 or 20 grand. And then in year two, I was halfway through year two, and like, yeah, once you've done 6 months of running your own business and understanding the tech that you're working with, you realize how much you don't need somebody like to provide your stuff and how they're really ripping you off
Mm.
like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Some of them are good. There's a guy called Max, and he set up a company like this, and he seems like, one of the good ones, but we're just a shark. They came in, and within a year, the support disappeared. Like, there's a guy who works for them, IT guy, and he said he would set up a trademark for me. A year later, he'd still not done it, and I asked countless
Right.
times. So stuff like that, and I had this account manager I think he was called Kevin, really nice guy, but he hadn't worked as a recruiter like I work, so he didn't understand the way that my mind worked. He wasn't able to deliver a lot for me personally, but he was such a good guy, and he left, and I got another guy who didn't understand. They didn't give me anything that could help me really become a better recruiter or be a better business owner. And that's what was part of the package. So about a year and a half in, I had to borrow, I said to them, look, like, you've got two choices. Give me a figure so I can buy myself out, or because I'd moved to France, I didn't really care, because obviously I've got the French business as well for tax purposes. So I could have just shifted everything onto the French business, and I wouldn't have had to have stuck to the contract. Now, I had no intention of doing that, of course, because that's not how I am as a person, but I gave the impression that that was an option, so they would let me out the contract. And it ended up, I worked out, right, because I knew that I was going to bill like 250, 300 that year. And I I'd said to them that I would do about 200. So I worked out in my head, oh my God, if I bill what I think I'm going to bill over the next 3 years, they're going to make like 150 grand out of me besides what they've already made. So I need to do something about it. So anyway, I ended up getting a figure of like 55 grand. And I'm a year and a half in. I didn't have that money in my business, so I had to borrow that money from a friend, paid it back within the same by December, paid it back, bought myself out the contract. But that's an example of how ADHD and the emotional brain can go into something and take the easy route rather than the difficult route. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my life, let alone in recruitment.
Yeah.
And
Do you reckon?
so if there was another recruiter out there thinking of setting up a business, please come and talk to me. I'll help you decide what equipment you need and how to do it. And don't take investment. Don't let someone like rip you off.
Mm. Yeah. So setting up your business, yeah. How did you find setting up? Not only obviously you're setting up a brand new desk, but you're setting up a brand new desk with a brand new brand as well, right?
In a brand new country.
In a brand new country. So how did you
Yeah.
find that? Like, what
So
challenges did you go through from a business development perspective?
it was, I mean, luckily I had an agreement with my ex-employer that I would take some of my clients with me because they didn't want to work with anyone but me, which is good. And they were
That's
nice enough
amazing.
to let me do
Unheard
that.
of.
Yeah, they were nice enough to let me do that because they recognised what I'd brought to the business, and it was more than just being a recruiter who billed. I was their main recruiter, and I'd built their reputation because of social media and clients and all that sort of stuff. I brought on a lot of clients for them, so I just had that conversation with them. They were cool about it. Everything, they were really nice about it actually. And so we agreed that there was, I think, 3 of my clients I could take, and they would take some of the other ones that I was less bothered about, but they could make money from. So that was cool. That really helped. And I didn't realize how much it had helped until a month after starting the business. They announced that the first COVID lockdown was going to happen. So you imagine, like, shit, what am I going to do?
Mm.
My client going to stop hiring. This is going to get really bad. Plus, my now wife, we were a year into our relationship, and we were seeing it. She lives in France, I live in England. She's got 2 daughters. She was coming over every 3 weeks. I was coming over there every 3 weeks. But we knew eventually one of us were going to have to make a leap. And we were planning for it to be the end of 2020. So when the first lockdown was announced, I was a month into setting up a business, trying to get new clients, trying to fill roles. I only had a couple of roles. And then first lockdown was announced. So I was like that to my missus, look, I don't know what to do. Like, I feel like this could end up being like, we don't see each other for the year. And that might really damage the relationship. So again, this is the good side of ADHD. I didn't think it through. I packed my car the day before the lockdown was happening, packed my car, drove across the channel, drove all the way across France. The next day I was there. She's got an office because she's an architect. So she got me some space in her office. And I basically set my business up from there. And that was it. So crazy. But it all
That's
worked
bad,
out,
mate.
didn't it? It all worked out because we got married last year. I billed,
Congrats.
in my second year, I billed 285 grand. And yeah, life is good. Sun shines, the snow falls, mountains are around. So yeah, I can't really complain. I mean, I guess the challenge of SSG, I don't know, it taught me resilience, I guess. I think because I guess when you set up a business, the biggest thing that people should realize is you really find out what type of a person you are. That's
Mm.
probably the biggest piece of information I can give anybody. You really find out what you're made of because a lot can go wrong and some stuff does, but you build up resilience, you build up strategies, you build processes, and you figure out what type of a recruiter you actually want to be and how you want the world to perceive you and the way that you do business.
Yeah.
It's been
If you
amazing.
could go back, apart from the investment side of thing, um, is there anything you would change, or yeah, anything
I
you would
wouldn't
do differently?
change anything. I wouldn't even change the investment thing. I don't live with regrets. It's all been part of my journey. Like going to prison, like everything else. It's all been part of my journey, and it's all taught me something. And but I'm not saying anybody else should do that. I'm saying the opposite. Learn from my mistakes. But people need to make their own mistakes as well. But that's a costly one, isn't it? 100 grand is a costly mistake.
Mm,
So yeah, like make different mistakes than the one I made, maybe.
it's good advice. I suppose a good way to close this out, mate, would be just to sort of get your opinion on the future of recruitment. Well, the future of Odd Shoes, but also the future of recruitment generally, and like where do you think everything's going? What with AI, Chat GPT, everyone's talking about.
Yeah. So ChatGPT. I mean, I think it's going to make crap recruiters or crap recruiters who advertise, should I say, at least average. And that's a good thing, isn't it? If it
Mm,
raises the bar of the bottom part of recruitment to an average level, that's a good thing. But I'd just say to those recruiters who haven't typically got good results from adverts, utilize the technology or go on Mitch Sullivan's course and actually learn it and then use the two hand in hand. I don't use ChatGPT for writing adverts. I don't like anything false in my advert. I like it to be all written by me. And I won't ever use ChatGPT in my adverts. I just won't. It's just not me. But I can see uses for it. And I can definitely see uses for recruiters who are just making that step into writing adverts. And I think in conjunction with learning about how to write adverts, it could be a really positive thing for those guys. But I give them not a warning, but like I implore them to the time that they save and the extra placements they make, which hopefully will save them time, instead of going out into the market and going, right, I need loads and more clients so I can make even more money. Why don't you spend that time thinking about how you can build a better candidate journey and a better client journey so you can raise recruitment up? Because do you recruiters really want to be seen like an estate agent in the world, or like
Mm.
a double glazing salesman or a car salesman? Do you want to be in that bracket? Because I know I don't. There's so many ways that these people can be raising recruitment up. I'd like to see half of the recruitment companies get completely culled. I really would. I really would. Because the owners of the business are the problem. It's not the recruiters, it's the owners. The owners of the business are the ones that drip feed this crap down. And
Do you think that we're on the right path though? Like, do you
yeah,
see a difference? Because for me, especially as now I'm like, I'm in the coaching world, so my market is recruiters, so that's
mm,
all I do now. Whereas
yeah,
before I was obviously in amongst it, so I wasn't looking at other recruitment companies. But what I have noticed over the last few years, and especially more recently, is people like yourself who have gone in over the last 10 years or so, become a recruiter, and now they're all setting up their own businesses. And there's a lot of businesses that are doing a lot of good things, and they're taking all the bad stuff that we've discussed on this episode, and
yeah.
they're now like trying to solve that problem. So do you think that the industry is like moving in the right direction?
I do, yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, like I've started a small recruitment group for tech recruiters called Tech Recruiters Anonymous, and it's just 7 recruiters. Some are owners, some are recruiters who just want to do things in a better way, and a lot of them are quite vocal. I mean, one of them, Lee. Me and Lee set
Yeah.
it up together, and so there are I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged that there are recruiters who have seen the way that recruitment has been, have worked in those environments, and actually want to do things differently. And I just hope that more do it. I really do. I hope, and maybe a lot of these owners who did recruiting in the 90s will probably die, and then leave space for these new recruiters to take over.
Yeah.
Just like the generation of racists that we had in the 80s and the 90s are probably getting to the point where maybe they'll die, and the newer, more calmer, nicer, more tolerant, more inclusive people are starting to take over. And you're seeing that shift in the world, aren't you? So every generation, like the death of the old generation is really good for the new generation.
That's a good way to end the podcast, mate, I think. Yeah. No, I agree, mate. I agree. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting few years, and with the combination of AI as well, and the shift in generations of business owners, I'm optimistic about it. I'm optimistic about the industry for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of recruitment business owners who are not so happy with what I've just said, but I don't really care. I mean,
Well, you can buy
if
that
they
over, mate.
feel if they feel hurt by what I've said, if they feel hurt by what I've said, they're part of the problem instead of being part of the solution, and that's on them.
I think. Do you think that these business owners that are clearly not doing the industry any favors, and they're not, providing a good experience to recruits, do you think they're aware of what they're doing, or do you think that because it's how they learned how to do recruitment, it's how probably they were taught with blanket KPIs and high pressure call stats and
Yeah,
all that? Do you think they're
yeah.
aware, or
I think there's some that are completely aware. I think there's some that are slightly aware, but it's because it's because that's what they know and that's what they've done and that's what's brought success. And I think
Mm,
some are just like not fit to run businesses and don't really know how to change it. I don't
yeah,
know.
and
You'll have to
afraid.
ask them.
I think you're right. Like some don't know how to change it, but also the issue there is they're also not willing to like try new things or even like go outside and find out what everyone else is doing. They just stick to their guns and just do what they've always
It's
done.
difficult. It's very difficult, isn't it? If you notice, like I'm a one-person recruiter, all the really ethical recruiters that I know are all small businesses
Mm,
because it's it's easy to change when you're small. But if you look at like Hayes, for instance, like Hayes, massive behemoth of a business, but how if they wanted to bring in a new piece of technology, that's not a decision that they can just make, is it? Because there's so many people going to be affected by it. And it's the
yeah,
same with business owners who come up, they set up a business and then they go, this is the way I've always done it. This is the way I've learned. Suddenly they're at 50, 100, 150 heads. And they're like, shit, I can't go back now. I can't go
mm,
back because this is what I've created. I've created a monster. So I just ride it out until somebody buys it or the wheels fall off.
yeah,
I think it's up to new people coming into the industry to be the change that they want to see in recruitment.
yeah. No, I agree. I think the next generation and well, the next generation of recruiters, but also this generation, this new generation of business owners like yourself, are really gonna positively impact the reputation of the industry and how everything's done, which will hopefully snowball. And yeah, in 5-10 years
The,
time,
fr- the frustrating thing is like these recruiters who are sat working for these companies, they're told that this is the way to make money, so they follow it because that's your boss. You do what you're told
yeah,
when you're an employee to a certain degree. So, but they don't realize like focus on filling as many roles as possible. Like focus on building exclusive relationships with your clients so you don't have competition. So then you do fill all your roles. Focus on every CV that you send, nearly all of them get an interview request because you've nailed the brief. You can make more money by doing things the right way than you can doing things the wrong way. I firmly believe that, but
mm,
people just can't see it. And if I was a recruiter and I was in an agency, if I'm saying this to a recruiter who's in agency and he's working for one of those companies, I'd say go find someone else who fits the mold of what you're looking for, because that's what I had to do to find who I was as a recruiter. Recruitment's
yeah,
recruitment's not broken. There's good recruiters out there and there's bad recruiters out there, and you've got to go and find one that lets you be a good recruiter, understands quality over quantity, doesn't hit you with KPIs all the time.
yeah. The advice
They're
I
out
give
there.
trainees who like reach out about like they're not enjoying their first job, the advice I always give is like the reality is your first or even your second recruitment job probably isn't going to be very good unless you get lucky, because the reality is that your first job is going to be one of those types of companies, those bigger types of companies, and yeah, more and more people don't like those, so
It's
they
just like it's just like girlfriend. I don't remember
yeah,
much about my first girlfriend.
yeah,
Everyone's got one.
yeah,
It's just a learning process. It's just part of your journey.
yeah,
So one of the contract recruiters at Evolution, a guy called Luke Campbell, he set up his own business now. And I've always kept in touch with him. And I was like the perm biller. He was the contract biller for the same market, for the same clients. We worked together. And he said, like, Si, honestly, it'll take you 3 or 4 companies to find the right one. But when it clicks, it clicks. And he was so
yeah,
right. Took me the fourth recruitment company to realise what recruitment should be.
Yeah, but it's
And
worth
then I
it.
said,
I think
"I
that's the
don't."
key message, right? It is worth the struggle. It
Stick
is
at
such
it.
a good career and a job, and yeah, I always tell people like it. Trust me, it is worth it. Like even if your first couple are crap, like when you find that right job or right company,
Yeah,
it's so rewarding and it's such a good career. So just stick with
yeah.
it.
Simple, isn't it? If you don't agree with the way that the company you work for does things, if something doesn't feel right about the way that you're approaching the market and you're unhappy, then it's really simple. Like, you're not going to change a business that's established. You're not going to change the mindset. They are what they are. So it's like people who want to change people in relationships. Like, you don't take a relationship thinking, I'm going to change that person into a better person. People are who they are. You can make incremental changes, but it has to be natural. It has to come from them as well, not from you wanting to change. I think it's the same in recruitment. Like, don't join a company and then go, "Oh, I could change them." You're not going to change them. You just move on as quickly as you can,
Mm.
and and you will find what you're looking for because there are companies out there. But don't make the same mistake again, because that's stupidity, isn't it? I've joined one company like that. I'm going to join another one like that and expect something different. You've just got to get
Yeah,
wiser every time you.
yeah. It's sort
But
of like when
anyway,
people. I saw something on LinkedIn not long ago. Actually, it was about like when you see people kicking off because the company doesn't offer work from home or that just any sort of benefit that they want, but someone made it.
mm,
I can't remember who it was, but they said stop expecting your company to fit your values and your like
yeah,
there's plenty of companies, for example, that do offer work from home. So rather than campaigning in your current role, go find a new
yeah,
opportunity or set up your own business, and if that's what you want. But your employer doesn't have to like bend and mold around you, um
yeah.
and to expect that you're just going to get let down.
Everybody's got the right to do things the way that they want to do it, whether it's a
Mm.
recruitment business owner or not. Like, everyone's got that right. And I hate, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, just join a company that fits your values and fits the way that you want to work, and that's it. You're not going to change anyone.